mess starting back at San Gabriel Boulevard. In the Cajon Pass, got an accident now, 15 southbound for Highway 138, middle lane taken away there, and you got to be jammed up from the 395. And in Santa Ana, got a crash on the 55 southbound for MacArthur Boulevard. Those vehicles blocking the right-hand lane, causing heavy delays on Knoll Ranch Road. Signal canceled in Sun Valley, 5 southbound for Hollywood Way. All lanes reopened, but still really tough from Tuxford.
Ready to take control of your phone plan? Well, then you better take that next turn to a Verizon store. Because My Plan from Verizon is the kind of control we all deserve. Get exactly what you want. Only pay for what you need. Get My Plan at your Verizon store today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers lost by 4 to the Chicago White Sox last night, but they hit a home run with their Black Heritage Night. One of the celebrated community organizations, the Brotherhood Crusade on Slauson in South LA, received a check for $130,000. The donation came from Dodgers second baseman Mookie Betts during pregame ceremonies. Congratulations to Brotherhood Crusade CEO Cherise Breman Weaver. She was on the field to receive the generous donation from Betts. In addition to the Dodgers community support, an all-star lineup of music was played throughout the night between innings. Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, James Brown, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Sister Sledge, New Edition, and others. Some real flavor was going down in Dodger Stadium last night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We begin top story with late breaking news.
Is it going to succeed, yes or no?
I think it's going to succeed. It's going to succeed.
Can you believe it?
Y'all did it!
KBLA Talk 1580 is about to celebrate its second anniversary on Juneteenth, and no terrible twos around here. We couldn't be more excited about all the good news we'll be announcing soon, including the launch of some new shows to keep giving you more of what you've been looking for.
Come on!
Smart radio for smart people. Hey, it's our celebration, but you get all the gifts. We'll be giving away fresh merch, swag bags, and a chance for you to join the private invitation-only, star-studded music and dance till you drop, food and drink galore second anniversary celebration. To stay in the know about the second anniversary details, download the KBLA Talk 1580 app right now. Don't miss out on your chance to be a winner. At KBLA Talk 1580, when we come forward, we're bringing everybody with us.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. That is the music of Janet Jackson, who we are celebrating today. June is Black Music Month, and all 3 hours of our program today, we're playing the best of Janet Jackson. We pick a different artist every day during June, and we are just delighted to be playing some of the best of Demita Joe, all 3 hours of today's conversation. In this hour, imagine getting a phone call that your mother and 2 cousins were killed during Bible study at church. That's what happened to Sharon Risher 8 years ago this week, in fact, when Dylan Roof calmly walked into Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and opened fire, killing 9 members of the church. How do you forgive the unforgivable? I'm pleased to be joined in this hour, for the hour, by the author of the book, For Such a Time as This, Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre, Reverend Sharon Risher. Reverend Risher, how are you today?
You know, I am well. I am tickled pink that I am on your show. I have followed you through the years, and to be able to be interviewed by you and to be on your show is definitely one of the things I could put on my resume now.
You are too kind. You are far too kind. Thank you for those beautiful and lovely words. My mother loves hearing stuff like that, and so do I. I ain't gonna lie. It's always nice. I say all the time that every one of us wants to be. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be respected. We want to be affirmed. We want to be loved. I think it's part of the basic human condition, and so I smile when people say nice things like that about me. I'm not even going to try to fake it. It makes you feel good when you know that the work that you've tried to do, the witness you've tried to engage,
yes,
it makes a
yes.
difference. I mean, you hear that from people, it makes you feel good. So thank you for those lovely words. I want to thank you for this book, for such a time as this. I want to thank you for the hour that we are about to have, because I know these conversations are never easy to have, even 8 years later. You never close on the death of a loved one like you close on a house. I get that. And so I am grateful to you, Reverend Risher, for even giving us the opportunity to talk to you over the course of this hour. Let me start with this. Does it feel like 8 years for you?
You know, I've been thinking about that, and it doesn't. It doesn't feel like 8 years, and this is the first time that I have not traveled to Charleston for all of the activities and remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, I did not want to get bogged down in the sadness when I have worked so hard to try to live this new life, because you can't go back to your old life, because the kind of thing that happened with my mother and cousins and the rest of them in that church, your life is never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, no, it doesn't feel like 8 years, because Dylan Roof stays in the news for one reason or another. We're always talked about when they talk about mass shootings. And so I have finally come to realize that this is the rest of my life, and then that I can't have a reaction to everything.
I'm glad you went there. Let me. There are two things you said already that I want to unpack. Let me start with these. Give you a chance to unpack, I should say. Let me start with these two things. And I had this in my mind already. You went those so swiftly. I'm glad you did. So let me just follow you. I can't imagine, and this is a word now that everybody uses all the time. The word is triggered. I cannot imagine all the times that you and others must be triggered about what happened at Emmanuel AME every time there's another mass shooting in this country, and they seem to happen every day. Every other day there's a mass shooting somewhere in this country. It seems the numbers are just out of control. How do you avoid, if I can put it that way, being triggered every time there is another mass shooting, or does it just happen automatically and there ain't nothing you can do about it?
Right. You can't avoid it. You can't, because of the heinousness and the reasoning and the international attention Charleston got. We're always in the mix of something. And anytime a mass shooting happens, when I see special report, my heart starts to beat faster. I'm like, what the hell has happened now? And you know automatically what these people are getting ready to feel, because you know it, and your brains take you back to that time, just like what they're going through. I have a friend right now whose son was killed in the Waffle House shooting down in Tennessee. Her young son, 16 years old, doing something after school, was shot in the head. Can you imagine this mother? See, it's not only mass shootings, because you've met people. When you hear about anything, your heart it aches for a minute. If you're human, it has to. So, but I've learned to slowly but surely carry that for a little bit and be doing something else. And I don't watch the news or I watch Netflix because I got to get away from that. I don't want to hear about it 24/7. I don't.
No. I feel that, and it makes all the sense in the world to me, because I can't imagine how one avoids being triggered about something like Emmanuel AME every time there's another mass shooting in this country. I digress on that point. When we come forward, I want to come to the point you raised a moment ago about this new life, and I kind of chuckled when she said new life, because as a reverend, when you hear reverends talk about a new life, they talk about a new life in the by and by, on the other side of the Jordan, as we say. That's not the new life she's talking about. She's talking about, I mean, she does talk about that, I'm certain. But the new life she's talking about in this conversation is the new life that she's trying to navigate every day, because, as you heard her say earlier, she can't go back to her old life. There's a clear demarcation in her life. Before the Emmanuel AME shooting, after the Emmanuel AME shooting, the old life was before, the new life is after. We'll talk about how she's navigating this new life as we move through this hour. Her book is called For Such a Time as This: Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre, and we have her on today in part because it was 8 years ago this week that she lost her mother and 2 cousins in the church shooting at Emmanuel AME. Hard to believe it's been 8 years already. You're listening to Sharon Risher on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
The pandemic may be over, but many Angelinos could be at risk of losing the place they call home. It's important to know your rights as a residential renter in the city of LA. Did you know eviction protection still exists for unpaid COVID-19 rental debt that was due before March 31st, 2023? And that you have 5 days to respond to an eviction notice, also known as an unlawful detainer. Learn more about your rental rights at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home. Join the City of Santa Monica and the Juneteenth Celebration Committee, Inc. for an afternoon of music, unique food, craft vendors, and local resources to celebrate the 31st annual Juneteenth on Saturday, June 17th from 1 to 7 p.m. in Virginia Avenue Park under the theme of Coming Together in Appreciation, Reconciliation, and Commemoration. This year, the main stage will feature a stellar lineup. Local blues artist Sonny Green, who will kick off the event with a lively set of classic soul and blues. Chaz Ross will lead his traditional participatory drumming performance. Victory Boyd will perform original, classic soul, jazz, folk, and gospel music. Arise Roots, a prominent American roots reggae band, and Climax, featuring Cheryl Cooley, will perform their classic songs. Join the City of Santa Monica in the Juneteenth Celebration Committee, Inc. to celebrate the 31st annual Juneteenth on Saturday, June 17th from 1 to 7 p.m. in Virginia Avenue Park in Santa Monica.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin Ultra Strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Okay. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Glad to have you tuned in to KBLA Talk 1580 in this hour. We are honored and humbled and grateful to have as our guest this hour Reverend Sharon Risher, who 8 years ago this week got a phone call that none of us would ever want to receive, informing her that her mother and her two cousins had been shot and killed inside the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. We all remember that moment, and it resonates for all of us, even 8 years later, but it certainly resonates for those who lost family members in that tragic shooting. Dylan Roof was the culprit's name, as you know, is the culprit's name in that incident, and we'll talk about that in this hour. Broadly speaking, I wanted to probe Reverend Risher on this notion of how one goes about forgiving the unforgivable. You'll recall that there was great debate, great conversation, national conversation in this country after that shooting, when a number of members of families of ones who were murdered inside that church forgave Dylan Roof. At the time, Dylan Roof had not asked for forgiveness, but they forgave him born of their Christian ethos, their Christian ethic, and there was great conversation, great tumult, I would even say, about that. And I recall vividly 8 years ago being on TV and radio as a host myself, and listening to people opine on what they thought of this move to forgive Dylan Roof. So it was a spirited conversation then, and still a spirited conversation when it comes to black people forgiving what many people see as the unforgivable. We'll talk about that as we move through this hour. But let me commence with this. Reverend Risher said moments ago that she's living a new life these days, because after something like Emmanuel AME, where you lose your mother and your cousins, you can't go back to your old life. Tell me a bit more about that, about this new life that you are forced to live every day, Reverend Risher, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, so when everything happened, I was an ER chaplain in Dallas, Texas, at Parkland, where they took JFK when he got killed.
Yes.
I worked at that hospital, and going through the funerals, getting back to Dallas, I had a ankle injury right after all of that. I had to stay out of work. I was just a total wreck. I couldn't work. My foot was messed up. I was grieving. And then I made the decision to come back to North Carolina. My kids said, "Mama, come home," because North Carolina basically is my home most of my adult life. And I came back to Charlotte. My daughter was single at the time, so I lived with her. She had a big old house, and we had space. And then I was asked to speak. And, that never really occurred to me, but here we are. I had joined the gun violence prevention group, Moms Demand Action, and had been speaking, and I just found myself out there talking about what happened in that church, letting people know how gun violence was not just affecting me, but everybody else. And then I find myself getting an agent and being booked. And wow, never, going to the White House, all of these things, writing the book, none of this would have happened without what happened. I would give everything to be back in Dallas, Texas, being a chaplain and having my mama. But that's not the way this is gone. That's not the way it is gone, and I have done the best I can. I try to be authentic, because anytime I talk about them, it's raw emotion. It's going to be authentic. Yeah, there was a before.
Yeah.
And now it is, out of that, I have, the forgiveness part. That was a long journey, because I wasn't even in Charleston yet when they went to that arraignment hearing, a bond hearing. And to hear my sister on national TV talking about, I forgive you, all I could do was scream and holler. Like, what? But see, after I was mad and angry and I didn't want to forgive Dylan Roof. Yes, the minister didn't want to forgive because I'm like, no, I can't. How? But it was only through the grace of God. I'm trying to tell you. That's how I was able to forgive him. Nothing from me, because if it was left up to me, I would never forgive him. Now I'm fighting. Yeah.
No. Now, finish your point. Now I'm fighting. Finish that thought, and I'll jump in.
Now I'm fighting to abolish the death penalty. How crazy is that?
Okay, yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be rich. At first, the minister, as she put it, didn't want to forgive. She thought her sister had lost her mind when she saw her sister on national television saying, "I forgive you, Dylan Roof," and now she's fighting to abolish the death penalty. It's gonna be a rich hour. Before I get to that, though, you moving so swiftly. Before I get to that, let me come back to this right quick, because I am struck by Parkland Hospital. So I know I've read and interviewed so many people over the course of my 30-plus year broadcast career, which you referenced earlier at the top of this conversation. I've talked to everybody, it seems, over the course of my career, and I'm honored to now say I've talked to Sharon Risher as well. But I know this JFK story rather well. Parkland Hospital is a famous hospital because, to your point, it is the hospital that JFK was taken to when he was shot in Dallas in that motorcade. I raised that because I want to get to a couple things here. I've written a book about Dr. King that many people in this audience, of course, know about. And there was a poll for years. There was this dark cloud, if you will, that hung over Memphis because it was the place where Dr. King was assassinated. And I felt that for years going to Memphis. I think the city is finally doing better with that. But when Dr. King is shot in your city and the place of his death becomes a huge monument, it's hard to divorce yourself from that. Everybody knows that Dallas is the place where President Kennedy was assassinated. We've all seen the footage time and time again. We all know he was rushed to Parkland Hospital. We can see Jackie O in that pink suit that she had on. I mean, all that stuff comes to mind. I raise that because there have been movies and documentaries done about Parkland Hospital. I've interviewed people over the course of my career who produced and were in these documentaries and were in these films. So I want to just ask right quick before I get back to Emmanuel AME, what is it like to work at a historic place like Parkland Hospital?
Well, first of all, I was the only black chaplain on the permanent staff. Mm-hmm. So, for us, you automatically kick in with, I got to do better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. I'm part of the emergency trauma team. When you see people running down the hall or I'm part of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm there on top of my game every night in one of the most tough jobs you can have, being with families who, gun violence, moving these families through. I felt it was such a great honor that I was a part of that public hospital that served the public. That was Parkland is a county hospital, and to run across people that sometimes you was helpful for them and sometimes you weren't, but you did the best you can as a chaplain. And I felt really proud. That was my dream job. Through all of the seminary and training that I went to, when I got that call that I was offered that chaplain position, I thought I was going to go through the roof of my car.
No, it's a historic place. There's no question about it, Parkland. And America is full of places like these. They're just these places. We were talking on this program just last week about the assassination of Bobby Kennedy here in Los Angeles at the Ambassador Hotel. They finally torn down the hotel, but for those who've been in L.A. for any number of years, we would drive by that hotel every day. And every time I would drive by it, I would think about RFK. It's just impossible not to. So there are places in our country like that have these and hold these memories. And now Emmanuel AME is one of those places. We'll come back to that later in this conversation.
Definitely.
But I wanted to. I just want to get your sense of what it was like working at a place like Parkland. Let me build on that now. So you were at Parkland, your dream job. And here you are as a chaplain, and your job is to help other people navigate their grief in real time. So you see where you know where I'm going with this, right? You know where I'm going, right? When it comes your turn to navigate yourself through your own grief of losing your mother, losing your cousins, it's an international story. Like the assassination of JFK. It's an international story, but you're at the center of it now. This is your mama. These are your cousins. You spent all these years helping other people navigate their grief. What did all of that experience do for you when it came your moment, your turn?
Nothing.
I thought you were going to say that. That's what I thought you were going to say. Tell me more.
Because well, see now, I did think about, okay, when I didn't hear anything for the longest, when I left that hospital trying to get to my apartment at 10:30 at night, knowing something wrong, tears flowing, just let me get home, I said, Sharon, think about it. When you don't hear anything in that hospital and them doctors ain't came back to them people, you know people dead. And that's when I knew. That's when it was like, oh. But that was like the only time I really was able to use my own training on myself, because at that time I wasn't a chaplain. I wasn't nothing but a torn up daughter who was in a fog and had no idea how she was going to move her family through this, being the oldest child, because now I'm the oldest, so you got to try to act like you got some sense, because everybody looking at you like, what we going to do?
Yeah.
So the chaplain, like doctors ain't supposed to work on themselves and all that. You're not even thinking like that. You're not. It took me a minute to get my life together. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
No, I can only imagine. I'm looking at my clock here. I'm going to ask this question right now. We can start your answer, and we will likely have to continue on the other side of news, traffic, and sports. But let me just get it started here. I want you to tell me about your mama. Tell me about Ethel Lee Lance.
Lord Ethel. Ooh, Lord Ethel. Ethel. Oh, Lord. Ethel started out being an unwed teenage mother with me as a result of being raped. And I was the product of that. Ethel worked harder than anybody I knew. My grandmother worked in the big mansions in Charleston on the Battery, and so, of course, my mom's would get, before she started to work for the city, she went back to high school. Ethel was a hustler, let me tell you. We lived all over, but when we landed in this brand new spanking housing project, brand new, we were one of the first people, and it was off. You had to walk a ways. My mama started selling potato chips and candy and pickle. Hallelujah. Let me tell you, they used to call us Lance Red and White because mama had it all for you. Plus, working her job. She was a hustler because she had worked in those big mansions, and she knew nice things, and she wanted nice things. And if it took for her to work hard to get it, fine. Ethel, she just was no nonsense. My mama wasn't warm and fuzzy and always hugging on you and I love you. No, it was always about always be on time and work hard and put God first, and you could do anything.
Let me do this. Speaking of doing anything, I want to get back to that. Let me do this first. News, traffic, and sports. We'll continue our conversation with, this is going to be rich. It already is. Reverend Sharon Risher, author of the book For Such a Time as This, Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre. I want to hear more about her mama when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. power outages caused by severe weather are still affecting over 100,000 homes and businesses across the South. Alabama is the hardest hit, with over 40,000 power outages, while power is down for thousands more in Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi. In Connecticut, Hartford police have made an arrest in connection with the swastika that was drawn on the Black Lives Matter mural in Hartford. Cops say 36-year-old Scott Franklin is responsible for drawing the swastika on the mural. He also allegedly drew the numbers 14 and 88 next to the swastika, which reportedly is a powerful symbol for white supremacists. Franklin is charged with intimidation based on bigotry or bias, breach of peace, and criminal mischief. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
We have a wreck working on the 710 southbound at Whittier Boulevard. 2 left lanes are blocked there. That's wrapping up and traffic is slow on the scene. Stays busy down into Bell Gardens. On the 60 westbound drive at Atlantic, we've got a wreck in the left lane, slowing there approaching from Garfield Avenue. And you've got heavy traffic on the 405 south with a wreck working at Victory Boulevard. Stay slow to Getty Center.
Ready to take control of your phone plan? Well, then you better take that next turn to a Verizon store. Because my plan from Verizon is the kind of control we all deserve. Get exactly what you want. Only pay for what you need. Get my plan at your Verizon store today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers lost by 4 to the Chicago White Sox last night, but they hit a home run with their Black Heritage Night. One of the celebrated community organizations, the Brotherhood Crusade on Slauson in South LA, received a check for $130,000. The donation came from Dodgers second baseman Mookie Betts during pregame ceremonies. Congratulations to Brotherhood Crusade CEO Cherise Breman Weaver. She was on the field to receive the generous donation from Betts. In addition to the Dodgers community support, an all-star lineup of music was played throughout the night between innings. Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, James Brown, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Sister Sledge, New Edition, and others. Some real flavor was going down in Dodger Stadium last night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Everybody in the house, make some noise!
Is there a better day of the year to celebrate the anniversary of the only unapologetically progressive talk station west of the Mississippi, focused on issues that impact the black community?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
We think not. A station that amplifies black voices like yours with hosts and guests who look and sound like you. Celebrating our second anniversary on Juneteenth. We're KBLA Talk 1580. And you ain't seen nothing yet.
Ready for an unforgettable experience this Juneteenth weekend? I'm Queen Mother Nina Womack, inviting everyone to my multimedia arts exhibit called Wayusi, The Legacy of Slavery and Freedom. Experience African culture, Black art, live performances, keynote speakers like Dr. Melina Abdullah of Black Lives Matter LA and more. See The Door of No Return, an 18th century slave dungeon relic from Ghana. Produced by Transmedia 360, sponsored by the Department of Mental Health, Cal Mesa, and Take Action for Mental Health LA, running June 16th through the 18th at ArtShare LA, 801 East 4th Place, 90013 off of 4th Street, 1 block east of Alameda in the Downtown Arts District. Get your tickets at legacyofslavery.com or call 877-594-1290.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go, shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lathan and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, you know. Oh, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them another look. If I go to another institution, I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right, Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
More of the music of Janet Jackson as we celebrate June as Black Music Month. And Janet Jackson is our artist in residence today, playing the best of Janet Jackson all 3 hours of today's program. But back to this conversation, Lord Jesus. Dylan Roof, who killed these 9 precious souls inside the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, 8 weeks ago this week. Dylan Roof once wrote in his diary, and I quote, "I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry," close quote. I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry, wrote Dylan Roof at one point in his diary. We are joined in this hour, in case you've just tuned in, by Reverend Sharon Risher, who lost her mother, Ethel Lee Lance, and 2 cousins inside of the Emmanuel AME Church. She was working at the time of the shooting in Dallas at the Parkland Hospital, famous for being the place that JFK was rushed to after he was shot in Dallas. She had to make her way back to the East Coast, to South Carolina, where her family was, where her mother, again, was murdered inside this church. She's written a book called For Such a Time as This, Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre. And I'm watching my clock here. This time is moving so swiftly in this hour. I want to come back to the story you were telling before the break. I had so many people reach out to me on our socials just during that one break about what you are sharing with us in such a beautiful and transparent way. Let me come back to your transparency in this regard first. I heard you say, the audience heard you say, that you are a child of rape. Your mother was raped, and she had the baby anyway. That baby turned out to be... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in 1958 in Charleston, South Carolina. My mom is like mahogany, and I'm light-skinned. Mm-hmm. And she's rolling me around. One lady asked her, said, whose baby are you babysitting? The white lady asked her, oh, beautiful baby. Mm. Whose baby are you babysitting? Mm-hmm. And Mama looked at her and said, no, this is mine.
Mm-hmm. What?
Right.
Yeah, tell me, to the extent you are comfortable, and if you're not, I'll back up. But what's it like? Tell me about your mother navigating being raped and birthing you anyway, and what's it like when you learn that you are the child of a rape? I mean, help me understand this.
56 years old. I was 56 years old, and I always knew, because I was light-skinned. All my sisters and brothers dark, my mama dark, my stepdaddy dark. So, you get to a point where you realize, wait a minute, I'm different than everybody else, but I'm still everybody else. Mm-hmm. And after my sister died in 2013 of cancer, I don't know, something in my spirit said, Mama, do you actually know who my daddy is? Now, for me to even ask my mama this was something, because all my life I wanted to ask her that, but I never wanted her to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept that. But that particular Sunday, I asked her, and she said to me, I thought I was going to take this to my grave. I'm 56 years old. The story I heard all my life was she got involved with a young Puerto Rican guy and got pregnant. He wanted to take her back to New York, and my grandma said, "You're not taking my daughter." And so that's what I knew all my life. And then at 56 years old, I hear this. Never dealt with being biracial. Never, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm raised black. Everything I know is black. And then at 56 years old to learn what I learned, and then I'm looking back at my life and like, well, that's why this happened. And
At 56, how did you process that?
my mom, I didn't talk to her for maybe 4 days. And she told one of my sisters that Sharon mad. You know, I didn't know how to process that. I didn't. And I didn't want to say anything that would hurt her. See, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But after she died, her best friend said, your mama never told you that because she didn't want you to have to be saddled with that all your life.
Lord Jesus.
So she kept that secret from you. Her best friend said that to me, and it was then that I really, really, really understood that this lady loved me more than anything in the world.
I was going to say, the Bible says, and you are the Reverend, so I don't need to quote this to you. The Bible says, in all thy getting, get an understanding. In all your getting, get an understanding. When her best friend said that to you, what kind of new understanding did you get about your mama, Ethel Lee Lance?
That she was stronger than you can imagine. Because she carried that, like, she buried that in the inside of her to make sure that I had an opportunity, the best she could give me, to be able to do what I wanted. Because no matter what I wanted to do, my mom's made sure I had an opportunity. I wanted to play flute. My mama bought me a clarinet and said they ain't had no flute, but this is a clarinet. You want to be in the band, learn how to play that. And that's what I did.
Oh Lord, I got to send a note to somebody around here. We got to start keeping some tissues in the studio, y'all. I look around and I ain't got no tissues in here. I love that story. I love that story. Take me back to the moment that you referenced earlier, where you saw your sister on national television. You hadn't made it back to South Carolina as yet from Dallas, where you were working and living. But you saw your sister on national television, as you, again, shared earlier, saying to Dylan Roof, I forgive you. I forgive him. And that did not sit well with your spirit. You're the chaplain, but that did not sit well with you. Yeah, tell me more about that, Sharon Risher.
Well, see, at that time, I wasn't no reverend. I wasn't nobody chaplain. I was just Ethel Lance's daughter going through grief. And see, okay, so then at that point, by time I left Charleston, let me tell you, the family wasn't talking. The sister who said, I forgive you, we was not speaking. So it wasn't like I was able to call her and like, what the blank wrong with you? And then I had talked to other people, family members, because from what I understood, nobody went there with that in their minds about forgiving. I understand they were like, nobody's going to say nothing. We just going to go through the process. But the judge said, do any family member want to say anything to Dylan Roof? And that's what opened that floodgate. Mm. And they were like, the next thing they know, they were going up to the podium. And they said when Nadine went.
Oh, Lord, it's the wrong time to drop the phone line. Let me let me do this, and then we'll do that. And by that, I mean get her back on the line when we come forward. You're listening to Sharon Risher on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
The pandemic may be over, but many Angelinos could be at risk of losing the place they call home. It's important to know your rights as a residential renter in the city of LA. Did you know eviction protection still exists for unpaid COVID-19 rental debt that was due before March 31st, 2023? And that you have 5 days to respond to an eviction notice, also known as an unlawful detainer. Learn more about your rental rights at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home. Are you looking for some fun and entertainment this Father's Day weekend? Can't figure out what gift to give the men in your life? No worries. Our entertainment presents Dance with My Father. Terry Steele, a tribute to Luther Vandross. Elaine Gibbs, a tribute to Aretha Franklin. Visit Eventbrite now. Dance with My Father. June 17th. General admission is $60. VIP, $75. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. Showtime is at 7:30 p.m. Taking place at the beautiful Fine Arts Theater in Beverly Hills, 8556 Wilshire Boulevard. For ticket information, visit Eventbrite or call Isidore at 323-351-7662. 323-351-7662. Bring the family out and let's celebrate. 323-351-7662.
You're listening to K-Trip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Watering Your Lawn During the Hottest Time of the Day and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Trip.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
I told you earlier in this hour that Dylan Roof wrote in his diary, I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry. I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry. He also wrote in that diary, I have not shed a tear for the innocent people I killed. I have not shed a tear for the innocent people I killed. And yet, Sharon Risher's sister approaches the podium at the invitation of the judge and says to Dylan Roof, I forgive you. That did not sit well with the Reverend Sharon Risher, who for some time did not speak to her sister. And then what happened, Sharon Risher?
I had to live with that kind of anger in the inside of me. I lost weight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't understand why they would do that. Why would they say that? And then I'm saying to myself, you know, with my holier than thou self, I know my sister ain't that holy. She ain't. You know what I mean? I'm making judgment of her and all of this and being mad. And the more I was mad, I didn't go to church. I didn't do nothing. I was surviving, trying to get out the bed every day. And then I finally, you know, I would have all these cussing match with God, and then I wouldn't read the Bible. Then I would be hyper vigilant about reading, and I finally started to ease my way back of going to church. And in going back to church, I was starting to understand always, you know, the only way you're going to get through this is through asking God for help, knowing that you need help because you can't live like this. And then finally understanding that it would no need to be mad at Nadine no more because that wasn't her, that was God. You know, that's how I understood it in my mind. That, yeah, you know, people have different theology and all, but no, God didn't stop that from happening, but God used that same happening to try to teach the world a lesson, to try to bring out white supremacy, to make black people understand that, you know, we're going to have to continue to do what we've been doing because nobody giving us nothing. Mm-hmm. And if you're sitting around waiting on somebody, then you got another thing coming. So then that's when I started to really, really realize I was preaching. I was preaching on a World Communion Sunday, you know, talking about togetherness and yada, yada. And the next thing you know, the words, I forgive you, come up my mouth. Now, I'm scrambling to try to figure out, wait a minute, that ain't on my paper. No. And then I looked at the people and I said, this is what's happening right now. Mm. I said what I said. I wobbled my way to sit back down, and that was the end of my sermon. And from that, it was, you know, people have all, but really there was a warm feeling that came over me. And those words came out my mouth. And when I tried to get myself together and understood, wait a minute, this is more than I'm understanding. I need to sit down before I fall out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you got to take a seat. Sometimes you got to take 2 or 3 seats. I found my way to the seat. I looked back at homie, the pastor. I looked at him like, bro, this is over. I need to get to my seat. Yeah.
Do whatever it is you need to make this go smooth.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to be wise enough to know when to sit down. Some people are not. You were that day. When we come forward, our remaining moments with Reverend Sharon Risher, author of the book For Such a Time as This, Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre. You're listening to Reverend Risher right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Prothos-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sunday, June 18th, come out to Africatown in Leimert Park for the Juneteenth Independence Revolution commemoration. The Independence Revolution will be part of a 3-day weekend to celebrate Juneteenth. Join in the national hashtag Wave of Freedom, where black people across the country will stand in solidarity to demand reparations for black American descendants of slavery. Hear from the frontline organizations who are fighting for better conditions for black LA. Bring your dad to be part of the Honor Thy Fathers ceremony, which will acknowledge dozens of black fathers in the community. See performances from some of LA's top local artists. Shop with a variety of local black merchants selling food, clothes, art, and more. The Juneteenth Independence Revolution is a free event for the entire family. Sunday, June 18th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., come to Africatown in Leimert Park to celebrate Black Independence Day. The Juneteenth Independence Revolution is brought to you by Africatown Enterprise, the African Village Vendors Association at Leimert Park, Black Lives Matter LA, Downtown Crenshaw, and Destination Crenshaw.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Xeljanz tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Xeljanz can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Xeljanz. Visit Xeljanz.com or call 1-844-XELJANZ.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Sharon Risher, most of us, thank God for Jesus, will not have to endure ever in our lives what you did. We will never have to endure getting a phone call that our mother has been shot and killed while she was sitting in church at Bible study. That's not going to happen for most of us. But every one of us has something in our lives, someone in our lives, who we have yet to forgive because we think what they did to us is unforgivable. So I'm asking you this question because I believe the answer will be instructive, informative, empowering for all of us. Whoever it is and whatever it is in our lives that we have not yet forgiven, it wasn't your mama being shot in church. Let's be clear about that.
Right.
So in the 3 minutes I have left, talk to me briefly and quickly here about what you can share with us about the journey to getting to a place where you can, in fact, forgive what we think is unforgivable.
Okay, so first of all, this whole forgiveness, it's a journey. It really is. Okay, I'm going to be real. My sister, the one-eyed Nadine, our family had been estranged. We had a sister and a brother that died since our mama. Oh, family drama, mama, whatever. Finally, last November, I spent Thanksgiving at her house. Now, that's how long it took for us to get back together. And because, you know, my mama, Reverend Risher, when she called me Reverend Risher, I knew it was serious. Mm-hmm. You got to be the bigger person. You got to set an example. And I would hear those words from people and want to scream because, you know, you get sick of being the better person. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you want to be petty and mean like everybody else, but, you know.
You preaching, Reverend Risher, you preaching.
So it's a process, but you have to want to go through the process, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And I believe as a Christian, you can't go through the process without leaning on Jesus, because that's the only way you're going to get the strength to be able to say, God, I can't do this. And God said, yeah, you can. Allow yourself that time if you real. If you ain't real about your forgiveness, then don't even go there. That's why I can deal with Dylan Roof. I can hear about him. I don't even want you to die, Dylan Roof. That's how much I forgive you. And God, because see, God can redeem people, and I know that. Dylan Roof could be redeemable. Who am I to pick and choose? So. I want you to live, Dylan Roof. I don't want you to die. I want you to live every night and let them angels come visit you, and they going to go over that same Bible study night after night after night.
On that note, I say thank you. Just deep gratitude to Reverend Sharon Risher for this book, for such a time as this, Hope and Forgiveness After the Charleston Massacre. This conversation has been even more rich, more meaningful, deeper than I thought it would be. And I expected a great deal out of it, but it exceeded all of my expectations. Sharon Risher, I love you. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
I know. Thank you so much for having me, Tavis. You have a good day, and God bless.
Same to you. Hour 3 of Tavis Smiley After News, Traffic and Sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Power outages caused by severe weather are still affecting over 100,000 homes and businesses across the South. Alabama is the hardest hit, with over 40,000 power outages, while power is down for thousands more in Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi. In Connecticut, Hartford police have made an arrest in connection with the swastika that was drawn on the Black Lives Matter mural in Hartford. Cops say 36-year-old Scott Franklin is responsible for drawing the swastika on the mural. He also allegedly drew the numbers 14 and 88 next to the swastika, which reportedly is a powerful symbol for white supremacists.